you're probably the main person that I should be talking to, since you're the one that's going to be showing up there. So, we never claim to have perfect systems around here, but we're fairly organized.
Okay.
So generally what's going to happen is you're going to get, when you're going somewhere to deliver, or when someone's here and I'm not, and so someone here like Jane is doing this sales process, delivery process, then these things will be kind of in a certain order, because there's a way I like to put them in order. And the system is that pink is me, or in this case you, and yellow is the customer. And so the things that are yellow need to be dealt with. And just to be even more refined, would you hand me that pink highlighter? Just to be even more refined, what we should do is anything that's kind of in this case, your responsibility should be pink. So we'll call this pink.
I didn't put the date in because when I made this up, I wasn't absolutely positive it was going to happen on Friday.
Yeah, I get it.
So anything that's yellow on here is he either needs to sign or you have to fill in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I like this, I think it's good to have it be you, because that's a pretty critical thing, is to get the odometer reading
Absolutely.
in there. So you're there and you're gonna put in the odometer reading, and so I think I'm just thinking how, for instructional purposes, how's the best way to do this. I think if I kind of talk to you like you're the customer, let's try that.
Okay.
So this is a purchase order, and it has the description of the vehicle up here, and it has the various numbers here. And so it shows your option, which you've already paid, and then it shows the total price of the actual vehicle, and it shows that payment here is $23.90. And so when you take $23.90 from $23.9, it leaves $21,510. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then the delivery fee is in brackets here, and it says prepaid.
Okay.
So that's already been paid. And so then you've got a $30 trip permit, which is good for 21 days. And so then there's a balance of $21,540. And so that's what you, the customer, have owing. And so I, the delivery person, am going to initial in this yellow spot when I've gotten all the money from the person, and then the person can initial here saying they've given us the money.
It's the opposite.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I'm the customer. So I'm going to
Oh,
sign it.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is the first time we've ever done this, so I'm trying to think as I go. So we end up with these initials saying it's been paid only once you have the money in your hand.
Right.
And imperfect, because I'm talking to you as the delivery guy and the buyer at the same time, which is confusing. So I'll try to get back to work pretending you're the buyer. So these three spots here, I just need to have you initial them, and they basically just say that you know what you're getting and you want what you're getting. And that's what I always say to people.
Uh-huh.
And so then, most people don't really read them, but this one says the purchaser has inspected the vehicle and been given the opportunity to be examined by a mechanic. This one says disputes will be settled by arbitration. And this one says the purchaser acknowledges receipt of a copy of this. So rather than going into all that, what I always say is, so these three initials just need you to have you initial here, Mr. Buyer, and it just basically means you know what you're getting and you want what you're getting.
Right.
And that's what I say, and 90% of the time that's the end of it. Okay. So I will have signed here, and so then this receipt of title acknowledged. So you're going to be giving them this title. Mm-hmm. So what you're going to say is you're going to go, okay, Mr. Buyer, so this is receipt of title acknowledged, and so here's your title, and so you're going to sign there, Mr. Buyer, indicating you received the title. And sometimes I say, and the reason we do that is because like 2 different times I've had where people called me when they got back home from picking up their van, and they said they never got their title. And I knew they got their title, and I had this sign saying they got their title. And then they found their title.
Oh,
So
magic.
yeah. So and so then here's a spot for the buyer to acknowledge the overall agreement. So that's usually what I say is initial here. These initials say that the money's been paid. These say you know what you're getting and you want what you're getting. This says you've received the title, and this is an acknowledgement of the overall agreement. So that's that. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Not too complicated.
Okay. So the title you're going to give to them, and there's nothing that needs to be signed off on it. It's already released from, and so let me pretend like you're the buyer. Thank God for editing. So we'll pretend you're the buyer. So here's your title. Now this title is from the person that I got the van from.
Right.
So this person released their interest here, and they sold it to Wheelchair Van Oasis, and here's the Wheelchair Van Oasis signature. So at this point, Wheelchair Van Oasis owned this van.
Right.
And so that's your title, and that combined with this is what's called a chain of title. So this is a DMV form, and I always point at that because it kind of shows credibility. People, I just know that it makes people feel better knowing like this is an official form.
Right.
So I say, so this is a DMV form, and it shows you, Mr. Buyer, as the buyer, and it shows Wheelchair Van Oasis as the seller. And so the miles are going to get written in here, and you, Mr. Buyer, are going to sign here. And so these two combined are what are your chain of title. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So then this is the first of several warranty documents, Mr. Buyer. And this is what most people would think of as the federal form. This is supposed to be in every vehicle that's sold in America. And normally, Mr. Buyer, it would say as is. And what the buyer always does is goes, yeah, uh-huh. And then I go, so in our case, it has a warranty. And it says here, systems covered. And basically what it does here is it refers to these other documents. And that's actually what I do, is I just kind of go, it refers to these other documents. And they nod their head, okay, yeah. And then I say, and then the duration, it says 18 months or 18,000 miles. And by the way, it varies from vehicle to the vehicle. They're not always the same.
Right.
So when I'm talking to the buyer, I say that, and then I go, I tear this off. I'm not going to tear it off all the way right now. I tear it off and I go, you know, these are identical, and so you'll sign both of them, and we'll each keep one. And so that's how you handle that.
Okay. Signature on the back. Okay.
And by the way, one of the things that I say when I'm starting out is, so you're going to get a copy of everything. And it's important to say that because people tend to have a little nervousness thinking maybe they're not going to like have this stuff.
Right.
So I always just say right up front, you'll get a copy of everything. Okay. So this is one of the warranty documents, and it shows at the top here we've crossed out the normal verbiage because the van you're buying doesn't fit into this. Well, you know, let me think for a second here. Okay, thinking. I think this might be wrong. But we'll wait till Jane gets back here. So that might be wrong, but we'll continue anyway. So
Because it's written up here.
well, no, I think this 18 months or 18,000 miles. Oh no, that's right. I know why. It's it's, this van exceeds our verbiage here, because it's, what this should say is $15,000 to $20,000 is 360 days, 12,000 miles, and then it should say $20,000 to $25,000 is 18 months or 18,000. But when this form was made, we weren't selling anything over 20,000.
Right.
And so that's why we've written this in. So it is correct. So what you're going to say to the person is, so this did not apply because the van you bought is above the price range we're normally at. So you're getting 18 months or 18,000. So we hand wrote this in here. And so we're both going to initial here acknowledging that that's what the warranty is.
Right.
And then this is a general acknowledgement of the whole agreement. And the main point you need to know about this agreement is that it's a drivetrain plus warranty. So what that means is and I usually circle, I go, it covers engine, transmission, drive axle, and then there's a couple things down here. Water pumps 50%, alternator and starters 50%, but this is all covered 100% up here. And people usually just go, okay, because by the time we get to making the sale, people always know that it's a drivetrain warranty and not a all-encompassing warranty.
Correct.
So really all we're doing is pointing out that, and I literally usually take a pen and I'll circle engine, transmission, drive axle. That's actually what I do just to kind of bring their attention to it. Mm-hmm. And then, the initials for this change up here, and then initials down here about the general agreement. And so there's, two, one for each person. Okay, so then this is Mr. Buyer. This is another warranty document. And this one is kind of the general process of how the warranty would go. So what this says is it says things like the warranty covers just the drivetrain. It doesn't cover the whole vehicle. It doesn't cover miscellaneous minor stuff. It covers the big major things that are on that list we just looked at, Mr. Buyer.
Right.
And what would happen is if you had a problem, we would get a call. You'd give us a call, and we would find a shop in your area. And you may know one, but we would find a shop somehow in your area and we'd have them check it out. And if it turns out to be something covered by warranty, what this down here says, Mr. Buyer, is basically that, we're not going to use like a brand new motor, or a brand new transmission. We're going to get probably a used motor or transmission that's similar miles. So that's what this says, Mr. Buyer. And then they go, okay. And so they sign here. And then we initial here, and what this says, Mr. Buyer, is that the warranty covers only of the items expressly listed, and that was referring to what's on this piece of paper here.
Right.
And so they go, okay, so they initial that. Okay, does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So then this is the last of the warranty documents, and here's how I actually say to people, because years ago when I started doing this, sometimes when I'd get to this, I could tell the person was like I'm pretty tuned in, so I could tell people were maybe just a little uncomfortable, like kind of like, geez, how many warranty documents are there? Uh-huh. So in anticipation of that, what I always say when I get to this is I go, so this is the last of the warranty documents, and boy, I know there's several of them, and the thing is that the government wants the customer to really be sure about what they're getting, because it's a certified vehicle, the warranty is included, and the government they want me to be sure that you, the buyer, really know what you're getting and what you're not getting. So that's why there's all these pages about warranty. So what this is it's a summary of the other three that you just signed. So basically it just says, once again, you're satisfied with the vehicle, and that's, you signed a similar thing on the purchase order, the first thing you signed. So it's just saying that you're satisfied with the condition of the vehicle right now. It says, the vehicle includes a limited warranty. It doesn't cover everything. And that you're going to contact Wheelchair Van Oasis if there's a problem. And then, Mr. Buyer, it just says the description of the vehicle, and it says again here 18 months or 18,000 miles. So that's what that is. And so then the person signs it.
Okay.
And initials there. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So then, this, Mr. Buyer, is a Privacy Act notice. And this is just a federal thing. And it says here, what does Wheelchair Van Oasis do with your personal information? And what it says here is, does Wheelchair Van Oasis share? The only one that says yes, Mr. Buyer, is this one here that relates to like government agencies requiring that I share your information, Mr. Buyer. And all these others say no, and these are all like marketing things. And so then the buyer always just goes, okay, yeah, no problem. And so you sign on the back of here. And then the last thing we have for you here, Mr. Buyer, is something that we just started doing recently. And we don't have a perfect system for this yet, but what we found is sometimes it was confusing for people how their switches and how their gadgets worked and if they had a remote or not. So what we started doing just recently is having this page that kind of describes how things work on your van that are the mobility features, Mr. Buyer. And on this van, it's really simple, but we still just kind of abbreviated it here. So, you know, this is, says here door panel remote. So that's a remote that's hanging on the door. And this one says interior lift switch. So the lift itself actually has some switches on it. So this just kind of describes how those work. And like I said, Mr. Buyer, you know, it's not perfect yet. So sorry if it, you know, it's might be not perfectly clear, but if you have any questions, let us know. But this will probably help you just kind of remember how things work.
Show them how to do it also.
Yeah, you're gonna. Yeah, so we'll actually go to the van and you know I'll show you kind of what you're gonna demonstrate to him. This one is pretty simple though. Some of the vans are not. So this one's actually quite simple. So it's going to be an easy one for you to show the guy. So I think that's, you know, that's basically the document. So what I do is, and so what you're going to do, because you'll be in, now you're switching from being the buyer to being you know, the deliverer.
Okay.
So what you're going to do is you're going to go back through these and you're going to look to double check to make sure that everything that was yellow is signed. Because like literally when you get these, when you leave tomorrow morning, these signatures that are pink.
Except for this one.
Yeah, but this signature stuff I'm gonna fill out. I think we will leave the dates blank just in case some weird thing happens. We don't want all of our forms to be messed up.
Right.
So I think we'll leave the dates blank for now. But what you're gonna do is you're just gonna go through here, and it's important that you just kind of really tune in, and you know what I say to the buyers, I go, yes, I'm just gonna take a quick look through here. And so I go through and I just take a quick look at each one, and I make sure that we got signatures and initials in all the right spots and that there's dates.
Right, because a couple of them have a signature on the back, so by flipping everything over, you'll catch that if it's not there.
Yeah, and you wanna make sure, and I'll just give you an example of, I had this situation happen early in the year where a really crazy person caused me a lot of grief and tried to get me in a lot of trouble. And we had a super solid case, and we ended up being fine. But the glaring probably the one glaring mistake was that, and I was the one who did the delivery, and I did not have the person initial here. And so that could have been a problem if a lawyer were involved, they could have said, hey, my client didn't initial those because they weren't happy with it. They weren't acknowledging that they were accepting the vehicle. And if I would have had the person initial there, then there'd be no case to make, so to speak. So very important to get, you know, like on these, you know, as a result of this ridiculous person trying to cause me trouble, we added doing this and this. We added since I had the big problem, because by having an initial on these two things, if the person ever tries to cause me trouble, that makes it a lot more solid. Because this one says the warranty covers only items expressly listed. And what this woman was saying that made this big complaint against me was she was saying, I didn't know that the whole vehicle was not covered. Or she was saying, I thought the whole vehicle was covered. So we started having the initial that. And then this says, I acknowledge I'm satisfied with the mechanical, cosmetic, and incidental elements of the vehicle. Because this lady was saying, well, I wasn't really happy with the vehicle, but you know, you were in a hurry and you were in a rush, so I accepted it. Well, if I would have had her initial that, she would have had a lot weaker case.
Right.
So these spots are all really important. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And he knows that copies for us have to come back as well.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So what you're gonna do is, and it varies depending on, like in this case, the buyer, because they're not in Oregon, they need, well, for one thing, they're getting the title, whereas if they were in Oregon, we're keeping the title and doing the process for them. So when it's out of state, they're getting the title, but when it's an Oregon vehicle and local, we're keeping this and we're giving them a carbon copy. But in this case, since they're out of state, they need this original.
Okay.
So they're going to get that original. And it's pretty obvious the difference, right?
Right.
You know, this one's heavy paper and has all the color. This is
And it's on
thin
the
paper
front.
and no color. And other than that, what I would say is just generally keep the best copy for us. So like in this case, between these two, this is the best one. But what sometimes happens is they'll be like, one of them will have a better signature. You know, that sometimes there's just a subtle difference. So I just always, as the dealer, I keep the best one. So is that good?
That's good.
Okay.